Hi, everybody. This is the Energy Question with David Blackman. Welcome back to the show here. This is our fourth episode. Our special guest today is Irina Slav, one of the finest energy writers, the most witty, acerbic energy writers working today. She works at she writes for oilprice.com. Irina, tell us the Substack address for your Substack.
It's Irina Slav on energy.
Okay.
Substack.
Yeah, it's Substack. So, I mean, she is, really and truly one of the best energy writers working today. When I was editing Shale Magazine, which I stopped doing a few months ago, I was really glad to bring Irina in as a contributor, and she has done such great work there as well. Where else do you write, Irina? Do you have other platforms?
No, right now, no. I'm having a blast just having this Substack where I can be a lot blunter and a lot more impolite and irreverent than I can be in civil society on oil price.
It is nice to have that freedom, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very nice to have this freedom.
So I wanted to have you on today because you have such an excellent handle on what's going on in Europe. Where energy is concerned, the energy situation, the crisis happening in Europe is such a big aspect of what is a building, I think, energy crisis that's around the globe now. And so I wanted to just talk to you a little bit and get your views on some of the big issues impacting the continent over there right now. First of all, on your own utility bill, how are these incredibly high natural gas prices impacting energy consumers in Romania, in your home country?
I'm in Bulgaria, actually.
I'm sorry, Bulgaria.
That's all right. That's okay.
I make that mistake every time. I'm sorry.
We just, Romania is on top on Bulgaria.
Right.
So
it's
an easy mistake to make. Don't worry about it. I think for now we are being shielded by the government, but we won't be shielded forever, because I just read an MP from the Socialist Party calling for a freeze on utility bills for households. And okay, that's something the Socialist Party does on a regular basis. Of course, government must take care of households in every way possible. But the good thing about Bulgaria is that we don't use so much natural gas for direct, for power generation and for heating, except in Sofia. And people in Sofia are going to have a difficult winter unless we secure enough natural gas deliveries. The bigger problem for Bulgaria is that there are fertilizer manufacturers who cannot work if the price of gas is too high. This is a problem that the caretaker government is trying to solve, but we'll see how it goes. But really surprisingly, Bulgaria being one of the poorest, if not the poorest members of the European Union, we are basically doing better than the richer, the wealthier members of the European Union, which are really, really very dependent on natural gas.
Well, and that's countries like Germany. I know utility bills have just skyrocketed in Germany and the UK as well, right?
Yeah.
It's
not looking good. It's really not, especially for the UK. The news, the energy news coming out of the UK reads like horror stories. Day after day. They keep revising their energy cap higher and higher because the prices of natural gas are rising higher and higher, and this is being passed on to consumers, as it is being passed on to consumers in Germany, because the government obviously cannot cover the losses that utilities make or the costs they incur because of higher gas prices.
Yeah. And those governments have also, and I think in some other countries in Europe, have also had to order factories that use a lot of natural gas in their operations to curtail their operations, right? And so
some are shutting down on their own. They just can't turn in a profit on what they're doing.
Yeah.
Aluminium smelters, fertilizer plants. Just this week, I think two large fertilizer producers in Poland had to shut down basically because they couldn't keep on producing fertilizers at these prices of natural gas. And that's a problem. That's a food problem.
Oh, yes,
For
it's
the
a
future.
huge food
Yeah.
problem, and that's going to continue. I mean, we see what's happening in the Netherlands right now with their focus on nitrogen, which is, the same kind of policy that was implemented in Sri Lanka, limitations on the use of fertilizer. And
yeah, it's a mystery to me how they got to that decision, really.
I mean, you would think governments in the rest of the world would be capable of watching what's happened in Sri Lanka, where the whole society's collapsed in a year
Yes.
after they implemented that policy,
Yes.
and think, maybe this isn't the thing to do. But it's not just the Netherlands that's going down that road. Canada is about to do the same thing as well.
Yeah.
And it's a really mysterious thing. But let's, on natural gas, let's talk about how this all germinated last summer, right? Because really the energy crisis began to kind of percolate up in Europe last summer when the wind stopped blowing, right?
Yeah.
And I never have figured out why that is, but talk about how this all came about.
Well, you can't trust the wind. I mean, you can forecast the weather, but as we all know, if we follow any weather forecasts, they don't always get it right.
Yeah.
And apparently there is such a thing as the wind drought. And when the wind stops blowing, all wind speeds are lower, turbines don't produce enough electricity. And it's not just a problem from last year. I mean, here in flow in wind power, you can't have constant wind all the time. And wind that blows more strongly when you have higher electricity demand. Hence the curtailment, hence the problem with energy security that Europe began to experience last year. To be honest, I need to be reminded that it all started last year, even though I have been one of those people who kept reminding others that it did not start in February this year, it started last year.
And of course, that in and of itself is a problem, right? Because that's how it's all being portrayed by the news media, not just in Europe and the United States, but really globally. It's all being portrayed as something that just happened when Putin invaded Ukraine. But really, this all started a year ago.
Because it's much easier to blame it on an external enemy on whom you're already blaming everything that's wrong in your country. But, well, yeah, it's convenient. I mean, politicians wouldn't miss such an opportunity. But really, last year, gas prices were normal. They were the same as they were, in previous years, just normal fluctuations. And yes, one reason is the lower wind speeds that hit the profits of Ørsted and Vestas and other big wind companies. And I think actually the problem was that the build out in wind, as in solar, was too quick.
Right.
And politicians weren't really thinking that they might need more gas for the winter, which you should, because winters could be mild because of climate change, but they could also be harsh. Again, I'm sure because of climate change, because everything these days, I'm sorry for being caustic, but these days every sort of weather is being attributed to climate change. Well, yes, it's climate, it's not static. I mean, heat in the summer is normal, and cold and freezes in the winter are normal, and you should prepare for that. But apparently Europe did not prepare for that, because in the winter, by the way, I think Wind power is also seasonally constrained.
Yeah, we have that in Texas too.
Of course you
less
do,
wind
yeah.
generation during the
Yeah.
cold months. Any extreme temperature, right? Whether it's too hot or too cold, you end up
It's
with
not
less
good.
wind
It's not good.
contribution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think Europe largely sleepwalked into this, what I see as the penultimate stage of the crisis, and the ultimate stage came this year with the war in Ukraine. But it started last year. They kind of began realizing that they don't have enough gas. Remember, I think there were calls from the oil and gas industry in the UK as early as last year that they need to be allowed to produce more
Right.
gas from their own deposits. But no, the government was so set on net zero ambitions that it was out of the question. And then the bills for people started to rise. Now all the bills are rising, and what was it? Half of the population of the UK risks falling into energy poverty, which is
Right.
mind-boggling. I mean, it's one of the biggest
incredible.
and richest economies in the world.
Yeah.
The same goes for Germany. And then this year there have been these horrible droughts, no doubt again to be attributed to a changing climate for which we're all responsible. But to whatever you attribute these phenomena, they are there, and you have to deal with them instead of assigning blame.
Well, and going into last winter, it was easier to deal with all this, right? Because Germany and other countries that use a lot of natural gas could buy more natural gas from Russia, right?
Yeah.
Now we've got the war and we've got the sanctions, and they're trying to get off of Russian gas. And now they're trying to import it all on LNG tankers. And that's been a big piece of the price spike, hasn't it? I mean, just trying to source it differently.
Yeah. Their gas bill for the European Union is 10 times the usual.
Right. And so now I guess we see that Nord Stream 1, the main pipeline that brings natural gas into Germany and other Central European countries, is going to be shut down again at the end of this month. It was shut down for a week in early July for maintenance, and now they're going to shut it down.
They do maintenance once a year. I mean, you have to.
Right. And yes, absolutely. And of course, in July, they're also having the issue with not being able to get the turbine back from Canada where it was being repaired.
That notorious turbine. Sorry, it's not funny, but it actually is, because
it's bizarre.
Yeah.
And so this maintenance at the end of August now, I mean, what are you hearing? Is that really maintenance, or is it just Vladimir Putin?
Well, according to Russian sources, it is really maintenance, because they have one turbine left operating. Right. So obviously it would need extra care to keep the gas flowing. But there may well be a political aspect to all of this, because Siemens Energy says that the notorious Canadian turbine, it's not Canadian, but it was repaired in Canada. It is sitting in Germany and ready to go to Russia, but the Russians are saying that not all the documentation is, is right and proper in light of sanctions.
Right.
Obviously, anyone in their place would do the same thing. I mean, you want to sanction me? Have this. Sorry, but
So who's paid the higher price? Who's paid the higher price for these sanctions? Has it been Russia, or has it been Europe?
Oh, it's Europe. It's definitely Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever you say about not you personally, but whatever the media say about Western companies pulling out of Russia, but yeah, fine, okay, they will have some losses, and they did incur a lot of losses from this pullout. And I'm sure that Russia is feeling the pinch in a certain industry that in which it has been relying on Western technology. But the crucial thing is that the Russian people have food in the stores. They have locally produced furniture after IKEA. They've been having a blast mocking IKEA for pulling out of Russia and giving space to local furniture makers. While people and of course they have very cheap energy to heat their homes with and to have electricity. Well, people in Europe are not just seeing their energy bills skyrocket, and a growing number of people worrying about whether they will be able to actually cover their energy costs, not just in the winter, starting now. And they may be up for rationing, which means blackouts.
Right.
And cold. So you tell me, who suffers more?
Right. Well, and that leads to, I think, the question of social unrest. And you and I, on our energy transition podcast, which we do with the great Armando Cavanha every week, we've talked a lot about the potential for social unrest, and really in Europe as much as any other place in the world this winter. Or we talked earlier about what's happening in the Netherlands with the farmer protests. Are you seeing reports of social unrest beginning to rise where these costs are just
reports are sketchy in English language media. Sadly, I don't speak any other European languages, because maybe some smaller local media might be reporting on protests. I think there was a protest in Germany a few weeks ago, not very big one, but more importantly, the German foreign minister, Annalena Baerbock, said that there might be social unrest in the winter. And now this week, Francis Macron said that the age of abundance is over. And to me, all this sounds like, a warning and a mental preparation that politicians are trying to do quite late in the year, I'd say, but they're trying to prepare people for austerity that I don't think many of them have seen in their lifetime. And in Germany, there was something interesting. I heard reported that from now, I think I mentioned this on Monday. I don't want to repeat myself, but this is a different podcast, so maybe someone missed it. Yeah. So there were reports that the government is warning about possible protest activity from far-right extremists. They're trying to direct the narrative. So if you go out in the streets to protest your energy bill, then you must be a far-right extremist, which nobody likes to hear about themselves. But still, I really think that once people feel the pinch, once people get cold and it's dark, let's hope it doesn't come to that. But, many barriers to protest will be down, and people might take to the streets, and governments may fall. It's a distinct possibility, I think.
I think it is. I think it is. I agree with you, because I think here in the United States, at least, while most people still don't understand that this energy crisis has been basically intentionally created by government policy, that there's no real energy crisis in terms of a lack of these energy resources, that it's all been mandated by government policy. I think as more and more people understand that, it is increasingly likely that governments like Macron's government in France, which, he had a much closer election than he anticipated this year.
Yes.
I do think it's possible that some of these governments could start falling entirely.
And Macron said in that speech about the end of the age of abundance, what really got me was that he will prioritize, guess what? The energy transition and the expansion of renewables. He will not prioritize making energy more affordable to millions of people. And we know that the French are notoriously shall I say, feisty in the best possible sense. The French do not just endure; they go out and protest.
Yes, we've seen that
They
with the yellow
do.
vest protests in recent years.
Exactly. Yeah. You can't lead them by the nose. We say goodbye to the age of abundance, and you know, sit in your cold homes. And if you're a shop owner, you know, pay a fine if you open your door while your air conditioner is on. So
No, and that's
and
obvious.
he's still prioritizing the transition, which
Yeah.
to me is it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't make any sense.
Well, we're doing the same thing here in the United States, of course. We just passed this Inflation Reduction Act bill that you know is a Green New Deal funding bill, and that's what it is. And so we're going down that road. It doesn't matter what public opinion says. It doesn't matter what economic reality might otherwise dictate. We're going down that road. And you know, just yesterday, the state of California announced that it's going to eliminate all new gas sales of gasoline-powered cars by 2035, and through a command and control regulatory system. And so, yeah, I think that Europe and the United States and Canada are kind of leading that charge globally. And meanwhile, China and India just keep buying more oil from Russia, right?
Of course, and building more coal plants as well.
And so it's a really fascinating and frankly troubling direction we're all going in here.
Yeah, it is. But
it
will be interesting to watch.
Right.
The problem is we will be taking part in it in addition to watching it. We will
Yeah, and I just hope it's not tragic to watch this winter.
I hope so too. I mean, it will be financially tragic for many small businesses.
Oh,
I'm sure it will be.
No question. No question.
But yeah, we can only hope that the governments would be able to cushion the blow, at least to some extent, at least some governments.
Well, gosh, we're kind of ending on a downer here. Do you have any good news related to energy to share before we wrap this up?
Well, the good news, we will all learn to, to reconnect with nature. I'm not joking, really. We have
that's true.
We've been over civilized, over consuming. Now that we need to, tighten the belts. Maybe we'll remember how our ancestors lived and appreciate this more, appreciate nature more, become a little more respectful towards nature. And I don't mean building more wind and solar systems, but, realizing that nature is and always will be stronger than us. However arrogant we might be in thinking that we can devastate it. No, it will devastate us if it comes to that, especially if we help it along. Sorry, it didn't turn out quite as optimistic as I hoped.
Well, unfortunately, circumstances kind of dictate that there's not a lot of optimistic things to say about all of this. But I really appreciate you doing this with me today, Irina.
It's a pleasure.
Wish you the best and hope you have a great week, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. Thanks, David. Thanks for having me.
I want to thank the Sandstone Group for hosting this podcast, and of course our title sponsor Inveris for helping to support the program. Thank you all, and we'll see you next time.